There's a silent kind of suffering that many people carry, a tension between what they deeply desire and what a part of them already knows. They are chasing something that doesn't want to be caught. Maybe you feel it too, that persistent urge to control, to force outcomes, to make life bend to your will. And yet the more you try, the more things seem to resist, delay, or slip through your fingers like water. This is not weakness. It's a symptom of disconnection from yourself, from the rhythm of life, from a deeper intelligence within you. Carl Jung understood this tension intimately. He observed that most people spend the first half of their lives building an identity, chasing what they were taught to want: success, relationships, validation, certainty. But underneath it all, something gnaws quietly. What if I'm climbing the wrong mountain? You've probably already noticed this. A door you wanted to open never did. A person you tried to hold on to kept walking away. An opportunity that seemed perfect just didn't work out. And it left you wondering, was I not good enough? Did I make a mistake? But what if it wasn't about effort or timing? What if the truth is simpler and harder? It wasn't yours. This idea sounds brutal at first, but there's hidden liberation in it. According to Jung, life doesn't unfold according to the ego's plan. It reveals itself in alignment with a deeper self, the part of you that's connected to the whole, that already knows the path even when you don't. So the question becomes, why do we keep forcing what isn't aligned? The answer lies in fear. We are terrified of surrender. We've been conditioned to believe that letting go is the same as giving up, that if we stop pushing, we'll lose everything. But in reality, letting go is the moment we stop rowing against the current of life and begin to float with it. It's the first act of trust, not in the world, but in our own unfolding. Imagine someone planting a seed and then digging it up every day to check if it's growing. That's how many of us live, unable to wait, unable to trust, obsessed with signs of progress. But the seed only grows in stillness. Jung often spoke of this paradox, that true transformation begins not in action, but in patience, in allowing, in believing that what is meant for you is already making its way toward you, but only if you stop standing in its path. We're not here to chase life, we're here to remember it. The right job, the right person, the right moment. They aren't hidden behind locked doors. They're delayed by our resistance. And when we finally surrender the obsession with outcome, something strange happens. Life starts responding, not to the ego, but to the self, to your truth. Jung called this the wisdom of the unconscious. It's not irrational, it's supra-rational, a higher form of intelligence that guides not through logic, but through resonance. You feel it when something just clicks, even if it makes no sense on paper. You feel it when you stop trying and something real appears. So the next time something doesn't work out, instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" ask, "What is this trying to protect me from?" Maybe the loss is not punishment, but precision. Maybe that closed door is not rejection, but redirection. And if you can sit with that, if you can tolerate the space between desire and destiny, you'll begin to sense it, that quiet movement beneath the chaos, gently pulling you towards something that already belongs to you, not because you fought for it, but because you were finally ready to receive it. And it is in this stillness, in the absence of force, that the true path begins to reveal itself. There's a voice inside you that never stops talking. It analyzes, doubts, plans, criticizes, compares, always trying to figure things out, always warning you of what could go wrong. It sounds smart, rational, in control. But Carl Jung would tell you that voice belongs to the ego, and it's not the one you should always be listening to. You see, the ego loves control. It survives by predicting, planning, and protecting. And while it serves a purpose, it also keeps you trapped, especially when you're trying to navigate life's deeper, more mysterious layers. Because not everything in life is meant to be solved like a puzzle. Some things are meant to be felt, to be sensed. And this is where the unconscious, the deeper, intuitive part of you, begins to speak. But here's the problem. We've become addicted to noise. Most people live entirely in their heads, disconnected from the quiet signals that come from within. We overthink decisions, replay conversations, anticipate problems that may never happen, and in doing so, we drown out the only voice that actually knows the way. Jung often said that your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. This isn't just poetic, it's practical. Your unconscious is like an inner compass, subtle, symbolic, but deeply precise. It speaks through dreams, gut feelings, synchronicities, physical sensations. But to hear it, you have to turn down the volume of your ego. Think about how many times you knew something was off, a person, a situation, a choice, but your mind talked you out of it. That's the ego overriding your intuition. The result? Regret, misalignment, and that strange feeling of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Not because you weren't smart, but because you weren't listening to the right voice. Let me give you a real example. A woman I once worked with was on the verge of accepting a high-paying job at a prestigious firm. Everything about it made sense, but she felt uneasy. No obvious reason why, just a quiet discomfort. Her friends told her to take it. Her ego screamed, "This is the opportunity you've been waiting for." But deep inside, something resisted. She turned it down. Months later, the company was rocked by scandal and mass layoffs. That feeling she had, it wasn't fear, it was guidance. Jung believed that the unconscious is not chaotic or dangerous. It's wiser than the ego because it's not limited by fear, pride, or logic. But to access that wisdom, you need space, you need stillness, you need to allow the silence in which the soul begins to speak. This is why practices like journaling, meditation, dream work, or even silent walks in nature are so powerful. They help you switch channels from the ego's anxious chatter to the soul's quiet knowing. And when you begin to hear that voice more clearly, your life starts to align in ways that feel effortless. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you're no longer moving against yourself. And if this message resonates with you, if some part of you is feeling seen right now, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this video with someone who might need it. That small action helps this kind of content reach more people who are seeking something deeper, maybe even the people you care about most. But remember, the journey doesn't stop here. In fact, once you begin to quiet the noise and truly listen, something incredible starts to happen. Not out there, but within you. A kind of mysterious intelligence begins to guide your steps, not loudly, not forcefully, but with a precision you can feel in your bones. And it's from this place, this inner clarity, that life begins to respond in ways you never expected. Have you ever felt like life was trying to tell you something, but in a language you couldn't quite understand? Like a conversation happening in symbols, in whispers, in strange coincidences that seem too meaningful to ignore. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, a concept that continues to fascinate psychologists, mystics, and everyday people alike. Synchronicity is not magic. It's not superstition, it's not just coincidence. Jung defined it as a meaningful connection between inner experience and outer events, even when there's no direct cause and effect. In other words, your inner world speaks and the outer world answers, often in subtle, poetic, and completely unexpected ways. You think of someone you haven't seen in years, and they suddenly call. You're struggling with a decision, and a stranger says something in passing that feels like it was meant just for you. You keep seeing the same symbol, the same number, the same message, over and over, until it becomes impossible to ignore. These are not accidents, these are invitations, but most people miss them. Why? Because they're too busy asking, "Is this real?" instead of asking, "What does this mean to me?" Jung didn't believe we should analyze synchronicity with cold logic. He believed we should approach it with symbolic awareness, as if life were a dream and every moment was speaking in metaphor. A curious case from Jung's own life illustrates this perfectly. He was treating a patient, a deeply rational woman, completely resistant to anything outside of logic. During a session, she described a dream about a golden scarab, a rare beetle. As she was speaking, Jung heard a tapping on the window. He opened it, and astonishingly, a scarab-like beetle flew in, a species uncommon in that region. He handed it to her and said, "Here is your scarab." That moment cracked her resistance. It wasn't about the beetle. It was about what it meant in the context of her inner process. It was the bridge between her unconscious and the external world. Now imagine how many scarabs have tapped on your window and you didn't open it. You see, synchronicities often appear during times of transition, confusion, or transformation. They are like subtle breadcrumbs, laid out by something greater than the ego, guiding you towards something you can't yet see, not with your eyes, but with your soul. But here's what's most important. Synchronicity doesn't work for control. It works for alignment. You can't manipulate it, force it, or predict it. It's not a tool of the ego. It's a confirmation from the self, that deeper, wiser part of you that knows where you're meant to go and when you're ready to go there. The more aligned you become with your true self, not your conditioned desires, not your fears, but your real essence, the more frequent and precise these moments become. Life starts to reflect you in ways that feel eerily specific, not because the universe suddenly changed, but because you did. Here's something practical. Start keeping a synchronicity journal. Write down the strange alignments, the uncanny timing, the messages that repeat. Over time, a pattern will emerge. And that pattern, it's not random. It's a mirror showing you what's happening beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. This is where trust deepens, because once you've seen enough of these moments, something shifts. You stop needing proof. You stop chasing guarantees. You begin to live with a quiet confidence that life is unfolding through you, not just around you. And it's in this state, where meaning flows freely between your inner world and the outer one, that something even more mysterious begins to awaken. A kind of inner transformation that can't be rushed, only revealed. You've probably heard the phrase, change comes from within, so many times that it's almost lost its meaning. But Carl Jung gave this idea an entirely different weight. For him, the transformation of your outer life was not just influenced by your inner world, it was entirely dependent on it. In Jungian psychology, the individuation process is the slow, often uncomfortable journey of becoming whole. Not perfect, not successful, whole. And here's what most people miss. Your outer reality is just a reflection of your inner architecture. If you are fragmented inside, disconnected from your true self, repressing emotions, ignoring your shadow, your life will reflect that chaos. You'll attract relationships that mirror your wounds, careers that ignore your calling, and situations that keep you stuck in cycles of dissatisfaction. It's not punishment, it's precision. Jung believed that the psyche is self-regulating. When you're off course, it doesn't punish you, it sends signals. The problem is, we often don't recognize those signals for what they are. We think we're just unlucky in love, cursed in work, or chronically confused. But in reality, life is showing us exactly where we are unhealed, unclear, or unwilling to grow. Take, for example, the person who keeps ending up in relationships with emotionally unavailable partners. On the surface, it looks like bad luck. But if we dig deeper, we might find an unconscious pattern, perhaps a deep belief that love must be earned through suffering. Unless that internal story changes, the external reality will keep repeating itself, like a loop disguised as coincidence. This is where the true work begins, not outside, but inside. You can change your job, your city, even your partner. But if the inner patterns remain untouched, the outer problems will simply reappear with new faces. That's the brutal honesty of Jung's view. Nothing out there will shift until something in here does. But this isn't meant to disempower you. In fact, it's the opposite, because the moment you turn your focus inward, not to blame yourself, but to understand yourself. You reclaim your creative power. You stop being a passive victim of circumstance and begin to shape your life from a place of alignment. Jung taught that we all carry an inner architecture, a psychological blueprint made up of beliefs, traumas, memories, archetypes, and unlived potential. The more you become conscious of it, the more you can work with it, rather than being controlled by it. And this is where true magic begins. When you heal an internal wound, something external shifts, almost as if the world were waiting for you to see yourself clearly. One powerful method to begin this inner renovation is shadow work. By exploring the parts of yourself you usually deny or hide, envy, fear, rage, shame, you stop projecting them onto others and begin integrating them into your conscious self. It's hard, it's raw, but it's transformative, because what you suppress doesn't disappear. It controls you from the dark, and when you bring it into the light, it loses its power over you. Another key practice is inner child work, reconnecting with the younger version of you who absorbed beliefs that were never really yours to begin with. The child who decided that vulnerability is dangerous or that success equals approval. When you soothe that child, instead of silencing them, you shift the way you show up in the world, not in theory, but in real, tangible ways. This is why the inner journey is not just personal, it's revolutionary. Because every time you meet yourself with honesty, your external reality begins to reorganize. Not immediately, not magically, but undeniably. The people around you respond differently. New opportunities arise. Old patterns fall away. And all of this begins with one simple radical act, facing yourself, because the world outside can only reflect the clarity you create inside. And the more aligned you become with your truth, the more the world stops resisting you and starts meeting you exactly where you are meant to be. But there is one final layer of this journey, one that defies logic, resists control, and requires the greatest trust of all, the timing. There is a force in life more powerful than effort, more precise than logic, and more sacred than control. It's called timing. And yet, for most of us, timing is the hardest thing to trust. We want everything now, the clarity, the result, the healing, the love. But Carl Jung understood something most people never fully grasp. The soul unfolds at its own pace, and no amount of impatience can speed up what has not yet ripened. You can be doing everything right, reading the books, meditating, visualizing, working hard, and still feel like nothing is moving. That's when the fear creeps in. Am I behind? Am I doing something wrong? Is it ever going to happen for me? But what if the silence, the delay, the stillness isn't a punishment, but a preparation? Jung saw the psyche like nature. You cannot force a flower to bloom. You cannot rush the tide. Just as seasons move in cycles, the seed, growth, death, rebirth, so does your own evolution. And if you try to skip a step, life will gently, or not so gently, bring you back to it. Because the lesson unfinished will always wait for your return. There's a story about a man who tried to help a butterfly emerge by cutting open its cocoon. He thought he was saving it time, easing its struggle. But without the resistance of the cocoon, the butterfly's wings never fully developed. It lived, but never flew. The struggle was necessary. The timing was sacred. And so it is with us. Some delays in life are protection. Some endings are beginnings in disguise. And sometimes things don't happen yet because you're still becoming the person who can hold them. The job you dream of might break you if given too soon. The relationship you crave could collapse under the weight of your unhealed wounds. Timing doesn't ask, "What do you want?" It asks, "Who are you becoming?" One of Jung's most overlooked insights was that psychic transformation cannot be forced. It must be allowed. It unfolds in dreams, in quiet insights, in moments that seem mundane on the surface but carry deep internal shifts. And when the inner shift is complete, the external world begins to move, almost effortlessly. It's a radical concept in a culture addicted to speed. But slowness in Jungian psychology isn't laziness, it's wisdom. It's the soul saying, I am not in a rush because I know where I'm going. The universe is not late. You are not late. You are just arriving moment by moment into yourself. So the question becomes, can you sit in the space between what you want and what's ready? Can you let the unknown shape you? Can you be still enough to hear the quiet click of divine timing instead of the scream of your ego? Because when the moment is truly right, things will fall into place with a kind of elegance that can't be manufactured. The person shows up, the door opens, the idea clicks. And you'll look back and say, of course it happened that way. It couldn't have been any other way. And that's when you realize the waiting wasn't empty. It was full of invisible architecture being built beneath the surface of your life. So if you're in a season of stillness, trust it. If everything seems quiet, listen deeper. If nothing's moving, maybe something inside you is. Because timing isn't the enemy. It's your greatest ally when you finally learn to dance with it instead of fight against it. And now, as we reach the end of this journey together, I want to thank you for walking these steps with me, for listening not just with your mind, but with your heart. If this message touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let someone else remember that they're not alone in the waiting. Until we meet again, may you trust your path, honor your pace, and rest in the deep, knowing that what is yours is already finding its way to you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. There's a